August 9th, 1986. Wembley Stadium, London. The final night of Queen's Magic Tour was supposed to be a flawless celebration. But when a 17-year-old girl from East London breached security and climbed onto the stage mid-performance, Freddie Mercury did something that had never been done before in rock history. What happened in the next 8 minutes would launch the most unlikely career in music and prove that sometimes the greatest risks lead to the most beautiful rewards. The energy inside Wembley Stadium was electric. 80,000 fans had packed every seat, knowing they were witnessing something historic. Queen's Magic Tour had been a triumph across Europe, and this final show in their home city felt like a coronation. Freddie Mercury commanded the stage with supernatural charisma, his voice soaring through anthems that had defined a generation. The production was spectacular pyrotechnics, elaborate lighting, choreography that pushed the boundaries of what live rock performances could be. But Lucy Anderson wasn't supposed to be there. Growing up on a council estate in East London, concert tickets to see Queen at Wembley were an impossible dream for a girl whose family struggled to pay rent. Lucy's mother worked double shifts as a hospital cleaner. Her father had walked out when she was 12, leaving behind debts and broken promises. Music had become Lucy's escape, and Queen's music had become her lifeline. Lucy had been obsessed with Freddie Mercury since the day her older brother played "Somebody to Love" to cheer her up after their father left. Something about Freddie's voice, that fearless performance style, that ability to connect with massive crowds, spoke to her soul with an intensity she couldn't explain. She knew with the absolute certainty that only teenagers possess that she was meant to be a singer. For 2 years, Lucy had been performing anywhere that would let her: local pubs, working men's clubs, community centers. She'd sent demo tapes to every record label in London, only to receive rejection after rejection. Not commercial enough. Lacks star quality. Try again when you're older. The rejection that hurt most came from Island Records just 3 weeks before the Queen concert. Lucy had saved for months to record a professional demo at a small studio in Camden. She'd chosen 3 songs that showcased her range: a powerful rock anthem, a delicate ballad, and a Queen cover that highlighted her ability to match Freddie's vocal complexity. When the rejection letter arrived, it was particularly brutal. While the applicant shows technical competence, she lacks the unique quality necessary for commercial success. We suggest considering alternative career paths. Lucy had cried for 2 days. Her mother, Claire, found her daughter's rejection letter scattered across her bedroom floor and sat on the edge of the bed with tears in her own eyes. "Maybe they're right, Mum," Lucy had whispered. "Maybe I'm just fooling myself." But Claire Anderson knew something the record executives didn't. She'd watched her daughter perform at local talent shows, had seen grown men stop their conversations mid-sentence when Lucy's voice filled a room. "Those people have never heard you sing live, love," Claire said firmly. "They don't know what we know." What the record executives couldn't hear over the phone was what happened when Lucy Anderson opened her mouth to sing. Her voice had a quality that was both raw and refined, powerful enough to fill a room, but delicate enough to break your heart. The few people who had heard her live knew they were witnessing something special. 3 days before the Queen concert, Lucy was working her usual shift at the Tesco in Stratford when she overheard 2 customers talking about selling their Wembley tickets. The man had lost his job and couldn't afford to go. Lucy spent her entire savings, £47, on a single general admission ticket. It was money she was supposed to use for her college application fees. "Lucy, this is madness," her best friend Sarah said when Lucy told her the plan. "You'll be so far from the stage you won't even see Freddie properly." But Lucy had a different plan, one she hadn't told anyone about. She wasn't just going to watch Queen perform, she was going to find a way to sing with them. The night of the concert, Lucy arrived at Wembley Stadium 4 hours early, studying the venue layout like a military strategist. She noticed that during the opening acts, security was focused on the back of the general admission area where the rowdiest fans gathered. The front barriers, she observed, were less heavily monitored during the show itself. Lucy had chosen her outfit carefully: dark clothes that would help her blend into shadows, comfortable trainers for running, and most importantly, a small piece of paper in her pocket with the lyrics to "Love of My Life" written in her own handwriting. For 2 hours, Queen delivered a masterclass in rock performance. Freddie was in magnificent form, commanding the stage with that legendary presence that had made him an icon. Lucy sang along to every song from her spot in the general admission area, but she was carefully moving closer to the front with each number, timing her movements with crowd surges during the biggest anthems. As the night progressed, Lucy could feel her opportunity approaching. Queen typically ended their shows with Love of My Life, Freddie's emotional piano ballad that showcased his more vulnerable side. She knew this song by heart, had practiced it thousands of times in her tiny bedroom, imagining herself on stages just like this one. When the opening notes of Love of My Life began echoing through Wembley Stadium, Lucy made her move. The crowd was swaying gently, 80,000 lighters creating a galaxy of tiny flames. Freddie was alone at his piano, bathed in soft white light, his voice floating over the massive audience with heartbreaking beauty. It was during the second verse as Freddie sang, Love of My Life, You've Broken My Heart, that Lucy saw her moment. A group of fans near the barrier had shifted to get a better view, creating a small gap in the security line. Lucy didn't think. She just moved. In one fluid motion, she ducked under the barrier, sprinted across the narrow space between the crowd and the stage, and began climbing the platform. Security spotted her immediately. Two guards rushed toward the stage from opposite sides, but Lucy was fast and desperate. She reached the stage just as Freddie was entering the bridge of the song, her footsteps echoing across the vast platform. 80,000 people gasped in unison. Freddie stopped playing, his hands frozen above the piano keys. He turned toward the sound, squinting through the stage lights to see a teenage girl in a dark sweater standing at the edge of his stage, breathing hard, her eyes wide with terror and determination. Please, Lucy called out, her voice somehow carrying across the stadium, despite having no microphone. Please, Freddie, I just want to sing with you. Just once. The security guards were closing in, but Freddie held up his hand the universal signal to stop. Well, well, Freddie said into his microphone, his voice carrying that familiar mix of amusement and curiosity that his fans loved. It seems we have a very determined young lady who wants to join our little party. The crowd roared with approval, but Freddie gestured for quiet. What's your name, darling? He asked, standing up from his piano and walking toward Lucy. Lucy Anderson, she replied. Somehow the acoustics of Wembley Stadium carried her voice to every corner of the venue. I've been dreaming of this moment of my entire life. Freddie studied her for a moment, seeing something in her eyes that reminded him of his own desperate hunger when he was starting out. This wasn't just a fan looking for attention. This was a girl with fire in her soul. And what exactly did you plan to do once you got up, Lucy Anderson? Freddie asked with a slight smile. Lucy pulled the crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. I know all the words to Love of My Life. I've been practicing for years. I just wanted to sing it with you. Just once, before I give up on music forever. Those last words hit Freddie like a physical blow. He recognized the desperation, the last chance energy that had driven this teenager to risk everything for 30 seconds on a stage. What Freddie did next shocked everyone in Wembley Stadium. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced to the crowd, walking back to his piano, it appears that Lucy Anderson has something she'd like to share with us. And since she's come all this way and shown such remarkable courage, I think we should give her a chance. The stadium erupted. 80,000 people were on their feet, cheering for a girl they'd never heard of, inspired by her audacity and Freddie's generosity. Freddie gestured for Lucy to join him at the piano. Come on then, darling. Let's see what you've got. Lucy's legs felt like jelly as she walked across the stage toward the most famous piano in rock music. The lights were blindingly bright, and she could feel the eyes of 80,000 people focused entirely on her. For a moment, the magnitude of what she'd done threatened to overwhelm her. But then Freddie placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and whispered, Just sing to me, love. Forget about everyone else. Just sing to me. He handed her a microphone and began playing the opening notes of Love of My Life again, slower this time, more intimate. Lucy opened her mouth and began to sing. What came out was magic. Her voice, amplified through Wembley's sound system, soared across the stadium with a purity and power that made 80,000 people fall completely silent. She wasn't just singing the words, she was living them, pouring years of rejection, hope, and desperate dreams into every note. What the audience couldn't see was the subtle transformation happening in Lucy's posture and expression. The terrified teenager who had climbed onto the stage was disappearing, replaced by a natural performer who seemed to grow more confident with each phrase. Her voice had a quality that sound engineers would later describe as impossible to capture, on recording a warmth and authenticity that could only be experienced live. In the VIP section, music industry executives who had attended the show as Queen fans were frantically scribbling notes on napkins. David Gilmour from Pink Floyd, watching from the side stage area, would later tell reporters that he'd witnessed the birth of a star in real time. Even Brian May and Roger Taylor, watching from the wings, exchanged glances of amazement. Freddie's eyes widened in genuine surprise. This wasn't just a talented teenager. This was a real singer, someone with the rare gift that couldn't be taught or manufactured. As Lucy sang the second verse, Freddie began harmonizing with her, his voice blending with hers in a way that seemed almost supernatural. Two voices, one young and urgent, one seasoned and wise, creating something beautiful together on the Wembley Stadium stage. The crowd was mesmerized. Many had tears streaming down their faces, witnessing something they knew they'd never see again. This was the moment when raw talent met opportunity in the most spectacular way possible. When they reached the chorus, something magical happened. Lucy's nerves disappeared completely. This was where she belonged on a stage, sharing music with people who understood its power. She found herself moving naturally, her voice growing stronger and more confident with each line. Freddie was grinning now, delighted by this unexpected collaboration. He began encouraging her with small gestures, nodding when she hit particularly beautiful notes, giving her space to shine during her solo parts. The song built to its emotional climax, both voices intertwining in the final chorus. And when the last note faded away, Wembley Stadium exploded in the loudest applause many had ever heard. Lucy stood there, breathing hard, tears streaming down her face, hardly believing what had just happened. Freddie put his arm around her shoulders and spoke into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, Lucy Anderson, the girl who reminded us all that sometimes you have to take the biggest risk to find the biggest reward." The crowd chanted Lucy's name as Freddie walked her to the front of the stage. "You have a gift, darling," he whispered in her ear. "Don't you dare give up on it. Promise me." "I promise," Lucy whispered back. Security gently escorted Lucy back to the crowd, but she was no longer the same person who had climbed onto that stage. In the space of one song, her entire life had changed. Within hours, bootleg recordings of Lucy's duet with Freddie were circulating among Queen fans worldwide. By the next morning, videos filmed by audience members were being shared on early internet forums and copied onto cassette tapes that spread across London's music scene. Record label executives who had previously rejected Lucy's demo tapes were calling her house by Tuesday morning. The same A&R representatives who had told her she lacked star quality were now competing to sign the girl who had duetted with Freddie Mercury at Wembley Stadium. The most ironic call came from Island Records, the same label that had sent Lucy her most crushing rejection just weeks earlier. The A&R manager who had written "lacks the unique quality necessary for commercial success" was now offering a six-figure recording contract. When Lucy's mother reminded him of his previous assessment, there was an awkward silence before he stammered, "Well, obviously, the live performance context changes everything." But Lucy's transformation went deeper than industry interest. The girl who had climbed onto that stage was different from the one who had climbed down. She'd proven to herself and to 80,000 witnesses that she belonged on the world's biggest stages. 3 days after the concert, Lucy received a phone call that changed everything. "Is this Lucy Anderson, the young lady who provided backing vocals for Queen at Wembley?" The voice was unmistakably Freddie Mercury. Lucy nearly dropped the phone. "Yes, sir. Yes, Freddie. I wanted to check on you, darling. I hope you're not planning to give up on music after our little performance." "Never," Lucy said firmly. "You made me promise, remember?" Freddie laughed, that wonderful warm sound that millions of fans adored. "Good girl. Now, I have some people I'd like you to meet. Are you free for lunch tomorrow?" That lunch led to a meeting with Queen's management team, who helped Lucy navigate the sudden industry interest in her story. More importantly, Freddie became an informal mentor, offering advice about the music business and encouraging her to develop her own artistic voice rather than simply imitating others. 6 months later, Lucy Anderson signed her first record deal. Her debut album, titled Love of My Life, in honor of that magical Wembley night, went platinum in the UK and launched an international career that lasted decades. But success didn't change Lucy's perspective on what had really happened that August night. In every interview, she credited Freddie Mercury not just for giving her a platform, but for teaching her the most important lesson of her career. Freddie could have had security throw me off that stage, Lucy would say years later, when she was headlining her own stadium tours. Instead, he saw a desperate kid who loved music and gave her a chance to prove herself. That's the kind of artist and person he was. The friendship between Lucy and Freddie continued until his death in 1991. She was one of the featured performers at the Freddie Mercury tribute concert in 1992, where she sang Love of My Life to 72,000 people at Wembley Stadium, this time as an invited guest rather than an intruder. Lucy's career spanned 3 decades, during which she recorded 15 albums, won multiple Grammy Awards, and became known for her powerful voice and fearless stage presence. But she never forgot the lesson Freddie taught her that night, that music is about connection, risk, and the courage to be vulnerable in front of strangers. In 2016, 30 years after her stage invasion, Lucy established the Take the Leap Foundation, which provides performance opportunities and mentorship for young artists from disadvantaged backgrounds. The foundation's motto, inscribed on a plaque in their London headquarters, reads, "Sometimes you have to take the biggest risk to find the biggest reward." Today, there's a small memorial at Wembley Stadium that marks the spot where Lucy Anderson climbed onto the stage during Queen's Magic Tour. Fans leave flowers, sheet music, and handwritten notes sharing their own stories of taking risks for their dreams. The story of Lucy Anderson and Freddie Mercury reminds us that magic can happen when preparation meets opportunity, but only if we're brave enough to seize the moment when it arrives. Lucy could have spent her entire life wondering, what if? Instead, she chose action over fear, and in doing so, created one of the most beautiful moments in rock history. Freddie Mercury gave Lucy Anderson her big break that night at Wembley Stadium. But really, Lucy Anderson gave all of us something even more valuable, proof that dreams aren't just meant to be dreamed. They're meant to be chased, even if it means crashing the world's biggest stage to make them come true.